My dad used to talk about this book, and when I was little, he told me that it was the best story he ever read, but I never read it myself, and for some reason, I somehow avoided it in school. It's like so much like required reading so much of the time in so many places, but I never read it until I began this project, and then I finally cracked the book open and read it and was very moved. It's an amazing book. It's not a fairy tale. It's a story. It's a gritty story. It's a story of survival, perseverance, and I think that it's a story that anybody can relate to, because whether you're young or old, I think you either have experienced things or you sense that there's a truth inside this story that you might be living yourself. No movie that has ever been done has ever attempted to do the entire book. This is the first time the book from beginning to end has ever been attempted. And one of the reasons we're able to actually attempt that is that now we can animate all the animal characters. I think it couldn't be a better time for people to rediscover this story. I think that there's a lot of stressful things going on, and there's a lot of uncertainty. And the neat thing about this character of Buck is how he faces those challenges and comes out of them better than he went in. One of the things I was charged with is telling the whole story, but also telling it for a family audience. We want to make sure, and that's one of the things I've done. I've worked for Disney and DreamWorks, and you just make sure that you don't exclude any audience member. We want to make sure that if anybody comes in and they're younger or if they're older, everybody they'll get something out of the story on their particular level. Harrison Ford is playing John Thornton. That is the last character that owns Buck. He doesn't really own Buck. He's a companion. He's the guy that brings Buck to his final destination, and they're more companions. The relationship that they share is more of a father and a son, and Buck plays the role of a child that Thornton had lost, and Thornton is able to take Buck on this final journey that he'd always dreamed of taking his son, and he completes that journey. In the book, Thornton goes through different situations with Buck, but I don't think his character is super well defined. And I think one of the wonderful things that Harrison did throughout this whole process was he was able to find that character, create that character, and really define what it was going to be. Omar C. and Cara G, they just have such light and warmth and humor, and they've got a great chemistry between them. They're partners in this whole thing, and I think Francois is much more practical, and Perrault is much more, I think, just maybe emotional and a little bit more impetuous, and the whole thing starts because he goes down to this dog cellar, and he's supposed to come back with 2 dogs, and instead he comes back with a dog that's 2 times too big, and that's Buck. Dan Stevens is fantastic because he is our Hal. And Hal is this rather wealthy man who's looking for some gold, brings his family along, and he's completely ill-prepared for what he's about to embark on. And everyone takes one look at him, including Buck, and they realize, oh no, this isn't going to work out. This is going to end very, very badly. And it does. He brings great character and energy to this villainous role. And last time we screened the film, we got a real cheer when Buck and he had to face off at the end, and it was really neat. But he does such a wonderful job, and he was so wonderful to work with. Did such a great job being our villain, Hal. He's one of my favorite actors, and I was so excited to finally meet him and work with him just a little bit. He is Buck's original owner, and he loves Buck unconditionally. And I think the unspoken thing is that he's probably indulged Buck just a little bit. I think Buck is a little spoiled, and he has the run of the town, and people just give him the room that he needs to do whatever he's going to do, and they tolerate him and stuff like that. So he's a real nice guy. He's a nice guy, and Bradley Whitford, he's did a great job. Janusz Kaminsky, I had always dreamed of meeting him and working with him someday, but I finally got to meet him and got to actually work with him, and he is so energetic. I was so impressed with like the amount of energy that he would bring to the set every single day. Like right away, he was on it. He was talking about different shots, why he wanted to shoot things a certain way. I learned a ton about just like the way he would approach a scene. Every scene he would approach with a very methodical, very, very smart way of doing things, so that by the end of the day, we really had everything we needed by the end of the day, which was for me one of my greatest stresses. In animation, you sit around and go, well, we need this and that, and you just, in a sense, you keep shooting the entire time until you ultimately, just run out of time, and you just shoot for years. But you have only a certain amount of time to get a certain thing, and seeing how he would get that, watching him light. And watching him take a set from the way we saw it when we first walked onto it cold to just being, filled with life and laughter and characters interacting and moving around and stuff like that, it's really, really incredible. Just very impressive.
Hey, Lisa here. Now, goofs or mistakes are common in the making of all movies, and according to the Movie Mistakes website, the movies with the most goofs are Apocalypse Now with 390, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban has 296, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets has 289, Superman 4 The Quest for Peace has 267, and The Lord of the Rings The Fellowship of the Ring has 262. Now, do you like my t-shirt? You can get one for yourself in the link in the description.